Hey guys, welcome back. As you can see in the title, I'm going to talk about my surgery a little bit, or my tendonitis story, I guess. I have some notes so I don't forget anything, but overall, I've had tendonitis in my right elbow since May of last year, April, May. Sometime in May of 2019, it started to get just like a weird sore feeling, and then I remember one day I couldn't lift a frying pan out of the sink, and I couldn't use salad tongs or anything like that. And when that happened, my fiance basically said, you need to go into the doctor. So I did. I followed up with the doctor, and she had kind of said she wasn't really sure if it was a pinched nerve or tendonitis because it kind of acted like both. I guess they're similar. Inevitably ended up being tendonitis. Following the appointment with her, I had been having physical therapy twice a week for pretty much all of last year, all the way up until January of this year. And I did physical therapy twice a week for June, July, August, so 3 months. And in August, I think it was August, or was it September? Somewhere around there, we did a cortisone shot. I'd been referred to an orthopedic surgeon because it wasn't getting better just with physical therapy. With a cortisone shot, I think it's like a 50-50 chance if it's going to help, but it's one of those steps they have to do. So we tried it for about a week. It was still really sore. Then I had about a week and a half of reprieve where it actually felt okay for a little while. Not great, but okay, where I'm like, oh great, this worked, it's gonna get better, but it didn't. Once the cortisone wore off, it kind of just went back to hurting all the time. I still couldn't do things. I think after the cortisone shot, I could finally use salad tongs, but I still had a really hard time lifting things, picking things up off the desk, even a can of soda. Spray bottles were really hard. Brushing my hair was really hard. And then after that, I did physical therapy for a few more months. So cortisone shot, we were doing physical therapy following that. And then I did physical therapy up until November, still doing twice a week. In November, the orthopedic surgeon I was seeing at the time said we should try a PRP. It's called a platelet-rich plasma injection. It's kind of it's a newer thing. It's before the step of surgery, and it has a possibility of an 80% chance of success. So we did it. For the record, it was really, really painful. I had to be off work for 7 days, but I did it around Thanksgiving, so I was off. I did it the day before Thanksgiving, I think, and then I was off Thanksgiving, Black Friday, the weekend, and then I think I went back to work Monday or Tuesday or something. Tuesday, maybe? I tried to take off work as little as possible this whole time. I've been working full capacity the whole time. I went back to work the day after the cortisone shot. I only took the minimum amount of days off for the PRP. But after that, I couldn't move my arm, I couldn't change my clothes. Honestly, I feel like the PRP shot caused more problems than I was already having. Straightening my arm was always hard, when I would lift my fingers, but I couldn't even open my arm after the PRP shot, and I couldn't reach my face for a little while. The second night after having it, I must have had an itch on my face or something like that, because in the middle of sleeping, I reached up and it was so painful. But the PRP shot didn't work. So from November, December, I don't remember if it was January or February, I went to a different orthopedic surgeon who was an upper extremity specialist. The orthopedic surgeon I was seeing prior is good. He helped me with my hip a few years ago, but he's more of a general orthopedic surgeon, and it was suggested that I switch to an upper extremity specialist. And when I saw her, they did an MRI, and they found that there was some tearing, not like a tearing I had injured myself, but They explained it as more of like a fraying, I guess when the arm was irritated and inflamed for so long that it kind of caused extra stress on the tendon, and the tendon started to fray kind of like a rope. And when stuff like that happens and you've got actual damaged tissue, the only way to really correct it is with surgery. So we decided at the beginning of 2020 that surgery was going to need to be done. I was probably planning on like April or the very end of March after my birthday. That's my cat. But then COVID happened, and it really delayed everything. The surgery center finally opened in July. After we decided to do surgery, I went to physical therapy just once a week because it was more of a pain management at that point. It wasn't fixing it, and there was no way it was going to with the tear, but it was helping me cope with the pain. I would usually feel okay for a couple days following physical therapy, and then it would wear off and it would start to really hurt again. Surgery was July 13th. Before I could have surgery, I had to do COVID testing and stuff. If any of you guys have had it done, it really kind of sucks because they stick this cotton swab like way up your nose. But on the day of surgery, I chose not to do general anesthesia. What we did was we did a nerve block like up here, so my whole arm was just numb. I couldn't feel it. It didn't exist for a little while. And then they put me to sleep kind of like they would at a dentist's office versus using anesthesia. And when I woke up, the surgery center, I went to Bone and Joint. The surgery center was really nice. Everybody was very attentive. The splint that I had on first following surgery, there were bandages around the arm, and then like a plaster cast was made, a plaster splint, and then more bandages around that. And I'll insert a picture somewhere of what that kind of looked like. And that one I had on for about 2 weeks. So post-surgery, I didn't feel anything the day of or most of the next day because of the nerve block. It was a very good nerve block. They did give me Norco, but they gave me limited pills, and I wanted to stretch them as long as possible. So I took half a pill earlier in the day when I would first wake up, half a pill later in the day, and then one whole one to sleep, because sleeping has been, this entire time, sleeping has been like the one thing that is really, really hard. I don't know if it's because your arm's in a position longer than usual, it doesn't move around as much, but sleeping has really sucked. The pills they gave me doing it like that lasted about 10 days, and then I was told to just sort of switch over to taking Tylenol only. Tylenol's kind of been making me really sick, so I haven't been taking Tylenol. I have prescription naproxen sodium 500 milligram tablets that I was given like way at the start of like the tendonitis problem, and that, while it doesn't really help with the pain a lot, I think I usually get like 2, maybe 3 hours of relief after taking one, and it's only supposed to be taken twice a day, so it's not ideal, but it's something at least, I guess. With the first splint, I couldn't get it wet. It was really heavy too, so like I couldn't lift it, and so at first I kind of laid my head back and my fiance washed my hair 2 of the days. So I didn't wash my hair, he washed my hair, I didn't wash my hair, he washed my hair. And then the next day I was feeling really gross and stinky. So I had to take a shower, and he ended up having to get into the shower with me and hold my arm up in the air because it was so heavy that I couldn't hold it up myself, and like my entire bicep and my shoulder were just killing me from how heavy this splint was. But he would hold it up and I would try to like shampoo with one hand and everything, and then he would squeeze the bottles for me. As far as sleeping with that splint, that one was probably, while it was a pain in the butt and it kind of was uncomfortable up here because it went from my hand basically all the way up to my bicep, if my arm would slip into a certain position on a pillow that I would have against me and rest my arm over that, like the splint would dig in up here. But out of all of the splints, that was probably the most comfortable one to sleep in that I had. My post-op was 2 weeks after surgery, and at the post-op we took off that splint, And I guess the bandaging that they had inside the splint before the splint and then the bandaging on the outside was like a absorbent. So it like sucked all of the moisture out of my arm. And the moment we took it off, like I'll insert a picture as well. Like my arm looked like Deadpool's face. It was really gross and like shriveled up and kind of like red. And I had petechia all over the place, like little red blood blistery spots and stuff. It was pretty gnarly. The incision site is about 1.5 inches bigger than I was anticipating, so I'm kind of frustrated about that. I'm still hoping that it heals okay. But I'll insert a picture of like what it looked like right after too. So if you're squeamish, kind of skip ahead a few seconds when that pops up. I'll try to put a warning maybe. But that's my cat. But the second splint, I don't know what it was made out of. It was a lot lighter. Sorry, losing my voice. It was a lot lighter than the first one was, but a lot more uncomfortable. It was really hard. My arm was at a 90-degree angle. This one also went from like my hand all the way up to my bicep, but on the back side instead of the outside. So like my arm rested in it. That splint was thinner and slimmer and stuff, so we just put my arm in that splint and then wrapped it up into a bandage. It went inside like this little sock thing too. It was basically like a cut off tube sock. But that one was so hard that I had to take like makeup cotton pads and line it until it was at least comfortable enough to sleep in and stuff, because that one was the most uncomfortable one to sleep in, because it was so hard that sometimes my arm would wake up at like a 90-degree angle, and like the weight of my arm coming down on it felt like someone had just like hit me with a fucking hammer in my bone on my elbow. It was miserable. I hated that splint so much. That one was removable though, so I could take showers and stuff finally. And I could take it off and like rest my arm on a pillow and elevate it and ice it and things like that. So I didn't have to wear that one all the time like the first one. And that one I was in for about 2 weeks. So the first splint was 2 weeks. Then I did go back to work with restrictions using my left hand only. And I was in that splint for 2 weeks. And then I got out of that one and was put into a wrist splint. They did give me a black one, but it was a little bit too big, so I reverted back to the wrist one I was using before surgery, because it's a woman's one, so it's just a little bit slimmer. There's not as much extra fabric and straps and stuff, because the other one was just, there's a little too much room where my wrist moves and it kind of digs in and it's not really comfortable. But and at that point, after that one, I could go back to physical therapy. So I've been in physical therapy last week and so far once this week. I am in physical therapy twice a week, no strength training. At this point, we're just trying to be able to get my arm to go straight and bend, because I still can't really reach my face. I can't use spray bottles. I can't straighten my arm. It kind of hurts to move my fingers. Sleeping, I thought I was going to be super happy when I got out of that second split and able to sleep, but I have found that sleeping is incredibly painful with no splint on, because I tend to sleep in like a fetal position, so my arms end up like against my chest, or I lay on it, and then I wake up in complete and utter agony, and I hate it. Like, I'm kind of over it to the point where this has been going on since May of 2019, so well over a year. I just want it over. I know I've still got a lot of recovery left, so I'm hoping that this works. Like, I'm hoping that everything comes out okay. The scar, I think we're at like 6 weeks. I'll post a picture of where the scar's at now. It does look a lot better. It's still way longer than I wanted by about like 1.5 inches. So I'm hoping that it doesn't stay purpley. I'm hoping that it lightens up a little bit. But overall, I don't know what's gonna happen yet. I'm still in a lot of pain. On average, at rest, it's like a 4 or 5 pain where it's really uncomfortable and I have nowhere to put it that feels comfortable. And occasionally, probably 2 to 4 times a day, I have like this random spike of pain. And it's kind of like when you get a Charlie horse, like you can feel it coming on and it like gets really, really intense, and you kind of have to just breathe through it until it passes. And it spikes to about an 8 or a 9, where sometimes I actually cry because I can't relieve the pain at all. I've had a couple good days where it's like a 2 at rest, but I'm still getting those spikes of pain. So I'm hoping in like another week or two it'll feel a little bit better, or I might be able to use it a little bit more. My next follow-up isn't until September, and at that point I don't know if I'll be able to switch over to doing some strength training or what's going to happen, but I'm really hoping that by the end of the year, at the very least, I can get back to like my life, because like I'd mentioned, I've been working this entire time except for 2 weeks after surgery. I was only off 2 weeks. I've been working full capacity, but my personal life has taken like a huge dip. I haven't been able to do anything. I can't do yard work. Cleaning is miserable. My fiance has to do everything for me. I feel terrible about it. Like, it's just been emotionally draining. I'm a stress baker. I can't bake. I can't crochet. I can't do anything. I'm a gamer. I can't really game. I've just been watching movies, and I'm kind of starting to run out of things I want to see. I caught up on like 10 different TV shows. So experience-wise, anyone out there who's going through having tendonitis, especially in one of their arms or like their dominant arm, you know how miserable it is, because that's been my life for over a year now, is not being able to do anything, but still trying to be productive. If you're thinking about getting the surgery, I wish that I could update you now, like if it worked or not. I will do an update when I know what's happening with it, because I know when I was thinking about it, I was looking up a lot of videos. There was only a couple really out there that weren't just like the surgery, and some people had really good outcomes, and some people had said that they didn't reach like 80% to 100%. So fingers crossed, but until I update you guys or do another video, bye guys.